You are listening to the Wi-Fi Ninjas podcast, where we talk about wireless technology. Here are your hosts, Mac Daring and Matt Starling.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wi-Fi Ninjas podcast. Matt and Mac here. How are you, Mac?
As always, never better. You?
I am absolutely fantastic. Thank you for asking.
That is my pleasure, man. This is the third podcast in a row without anyone else than us.
I know. I can't actually believe it.
Yeah. So as I said last time, no one wants to talk to us anymore.
Yeah, I feel like no one wants to come on here anymore now. It's just going to be me and you.
Probably. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today?
A very good topic, I think. So we are going to talk about how to become a CWNE. We will talk about all of the requirements that are set by CWNP to become a CWNE. And then what did we do to meet all of those requirements? Because then maybe it can help others that are on the same journey to give them some focus or some tips on how to do it. So if you're not familiar with what a CWNE is or CWNP, so CWNE is the Certified Wireless Networking Expert from CWNP, which is pretty much the highest level non-vendor specific wireless certification you can get in the industry. So it's very, very well known in the Wi-Fi space. And what number are you? 340 something?
357.
357. Oh, okay. Yeah, and I was 369. Quite happy with my number. I like it.
Which part? The 69?
Yeah, well, it goes 3, then 6, then 9, so it just goes up in like 3 increments. So, 3 in Wi-Fi is a powerful number, right? You go up by 3 dBs, you got twice the power. You go down by 3 dBs, you got half the power. So I like it, 369. But yeah, if you like the 69 Mac as well, then that's a good number for you.
Only when I'm around you, man.
Okay, cool. So I had a look at the application form for the requirements for CWNE. So if you just take a look at the first requirement from CWNE is that the candidate must pass all of the certifications from CWNP. So that's the CWNA, CWSP, CWAP, CWDP, but now also that some people may not be familiar with is the CWISA.
The one that I don't have yet.
Yeah, so when we applied to be a CWNE, this wasn't a requirement for us. But when we want to recertify as a CWNE, you need to have the CWISA, which is not just focusing on Wi-Fi, it's wireless in general. So it's IoT, you're looking at things like LTE. So not just studying for Wi-Fi, actually studying wireless as a bit more of a whole.
Yeah, so that's why when I was like playing around with the IoT lately, you were the one always helping me out after sitting CWISA, right?
Exactly. When you're putting all the stuff up, I said, look, if you need my help, mate, just reach out and I can point you in the right direction.
Yeah, cool. So guys, like the CWNP certifications, what a journey it is to get through all of them, to study for all of them. If you really want to have a great start as a Wi-Fi engineer or Wi-Fi pre-sales architect, whatever, if you are sitting in a Wi-Fi field, going through all of that is fantastic. Starting with the first one, I think you are just like, you have your hands on the book, you want to show it to the camera, is the CWNA, which is one of the most valuable certifications on the market currently. So Matt is showing us the study guide CWNA by two Davids, David Westcott and David Coleman. And this book is like
Wi-Fi Bible, man. Wi-Fi Bible. That's what it's
like
called.
1,000 pages. Like every time someone asks me a question about Wi-Fi protocol that I don't need to go into the standard to dive too deep, but I just want to answer the question like mid to high level, I always go back to that book and I find an answer there. It's 1,000 pages, but it's very easy to read. It's written in a manner where the authors, they try to show you how easy it is, not how smart they are as authors. They are very smart, but they make it extremely accessible. I love this book to bits, and everyone that wants to have a good reference point should have that book in their cupboards. So that's CWNA. How much time did it take you, Matt, to study for CWNA?
Yeah, good question. So CWNA, this is the Certified Wireless Networking Administrator. So this is the first, actually, it's not the first one that you need to pass. There are some, well, if you want to become a CWNA, you need to have the CWNA. But I think there are like a couple of more entry level exams you can take pre-CWNA. I'd have to double check what they are. But for the CWNA, the CWNA is the first minimum one you need to be able to then take any of the other professional exams. So
and you don't need to have the previous, the entry level exams in order to get the CWNA.
I honestly can't remember.
No,
I didn't take those ones. I started with CWNA, so I'm not actually too familiar with the ones beforehand. I know there is like a more of like an entry one before CWNA.
Yeah, there is like CWT. I think it's like it stands for technician. Typically, it's like 1 day training, quite high level. If you don't want to dive too deep, but you work with Wi-Fi quite frequently and you want to understand a little bit more about it, it's probably a good way to start. But if you want to go all the way up to CWNE, probably it's better to start with CWNA because it will cover everything that CWT does plus way more.
Yeah, so how long did it take me to get my my CWNA? So I think I got my CWNA maybe back in like 2015, I want to say. And actually for the CWNA, I went on a paid training course. So the company I was working for at the time, they paid for me to attend like a 4-day in-person training session. So
Who's the trainer?
I can't remember his name, but it's not someone that's like known in the industry now, for example. So some of the instructors that you see around like doing ECSE or any of the other CWMP stuff. So it's no one that I've come across after the class. So not someone quite so well known. But I remember I attended the class and there was maybe like 3 or 4 of us that was actually in the boot camp or the 4-day training in-person class. So it was quite good. It was kind of my first real proper non-vendor wireless studying that I had done. So I think I had my Cisco CCNA. I think I had my Cisco wireless, but this was the first time actually sitting down doing some proper training. So I had you get the book from doing the class, and then obviously you had the 4 days in class as well. So yeah, it took me a little while.
Okay.
How about you?
I will answer that in a sec. So you said that you had Cisco certifications prior to getting CWNA.
Yeah.
Did you go like, because we are both CCNP, wireless and routing and switching, did you get the Cisco on the Cisco track first and completed your CCNPs, or you switched after? How did it work for you?
So our first one I got was Cisco CCNA routing and switching. And then I think, I can't remember if I did my Cisco CCNA wireless first or my CWMP CWNA. I'm not sure which way around I've done it now. It feels like a long time ago. Like I said, it was like 2015 or maybe like even 16 that I did these.
Yeah, but it does take some time. So for me, for example, like CWNA personally, it was easy to pass, kind of, because that was after all the Cisco track exams. So I was already CCNP wireless, CCNP like whatever. I had like 20 something exams done from Cisco side. So Cisco exams, when compared to CWNA, when you look at from Wi-Fi perspective, they are still very good and insightful. It's just, I would say, like 50% of CCNA wireless is the it's like vendor agnostic knowledge about Wi-Fi, and then the rest is like where to click to do something on a Cisco specific platform. If you are a Cisco engineer, that's fantastic. But if you don't care about a vendor, you want to be like, good Wi-Fi engineer, where you want to know, when you know what to look for, you will find it in any vendor, right? So if you want to be that kind of guy, then CWNA, it probably will make more sense, because in the same amount of time, you will know more about Wi-Fi and maybe less about a specific vendor Wi-Fi. I think CWNA took me like around 6 months, which is quite fast for me because I tend to do all the exams and studies in a quite detailed way. So typically, like every Cisco exam, it was taking me like a year or something. For example, like CCNP routing and switching, 4 exams, I think, or 3. Each one was taking me like a year before I even attempted to pass it. So CWNA was a little bit faster for me, but typically I would say, based on what I've heard from my colleagues and friends, it's six months should be enough to pass that.
Yeah, so I attended the 4-day boot camp or in-person training, and then obviously I had the book, and I reread the book a couple times, and I, like, true story, I remember like one of the first times that we went on like a proper holiday, that me and Francesca, my wife, I took the CWNA book with me on the plane. I think we went to Mexico, so I was like, well, we've got that, like 8 to 10 hour flight there and back. And if she's going to be sunbathing or whatever it is she's doing during the day and stuff, and I want to read something on the beach and stuff, I was like, well, I'll take my CWNA book. I can read through it and familiarize myself with some of the chapters and that. But I remember when I was like packing it, she was looking at me thinking, are you mad? Like, we're going on holiday. And I was like, yeah, but think about all that dead time. Like, what am I going to do on the plane? Like, you'll probably fall asleep. I don't really sleep well on planes because I don't like flying too much, so I get a bit like nervous and anxious. So falling asleep is a bit hard for me. The slightest bit of turbulence is going to wake me up. So I usually just stay awake the whole time on the plane. So rather than just like watching the films for the whole time, I would rather, spend that time reading a book. And if I'm going to read a book, I may as well read a book that I'm interested in, and it's going to help me further my career. So yeah, I took the CWNA study guide, or the Wi-Fi Bible, however you want to call it. And I spent most of the time on the flight reading the book. And then when I was lying around the beach and stuff, if I had a bit of spare time, I'd just open up the book and read a chapter.
Okay, so you are crazy. At the same time, I've done the same thing when we were going for around the world trip in 2012. I think I had CCNP routing and switching book with me back then. So almost 10 years ago, like, we were just 7 months flying around, like, from place to place. I was carrying 3 kilograms worth of a book in my luggage that I was like carrying as a backpacker style holidays with me all the time. I'm not sure why I didn't invest in like Kindle or stuff. Probably it was available back then, wasn't it?
Most likely, but I think it was preparing them for what was to come, right? Because they saw how much we were going to be studying, even in our like free time on holidays. That hasn't really changed since then, has it? That's the amount of time that we've put into study.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you want to achieve something substantial, then it requires a lot of dedication, motivation, and persistence. So even if it is like a block a day, like 30 minutes a day, even that small amount of time, it builds up. So if you spend like 2.5 hours a week studying, over the course of a month, you will probably finish reading that book. Okay, so it might sound like not much time, but it's better than nothing. So I wouldn't beat yourself up if you just cannot sit and do entire course in one go. If you cannot find the focus and motivation, just come back to it as often as you can. Block some time in the calendar, and it's all doable. But it does require to stop doing some different things, right? It's like we both like playing console games, for example, or instruments, or doing some sailing, or doing something else that requires time that we might not have as much of that time as we used to before studying.
Yeah, spoiler alert here, guys. When we get further down the list for the CWNE requirements, you will soon realize that it becomes very difficult to maintain what you were doing previously if you want to achieve something so great like getting your CWNE. Like Max said, I used to really enjoy playing on my PlayStation. I used to like going out with my friends, like going out to like a club over the weekend, having a few drinks, or like going out midweek to like food and stuff. But when you're studying for something like the CWNE to apply to become a CWNE, something's usually got to give, because you've got to juggle work life, you've got to juggle personal life. If you want to go to the gym, if you play any sports, if you want to play any games, if you want to go out and see your friends, and then also you want to study, it becomes quite challenging. So maybe we'll talk about in a few moments time, like some of the tips how we achieved and try to find that balance.
Of course, you didn't even mention kids or pets or stuff like that, but yeah, let's continue.
Throw that into the mix and it becomes even more challenging. So that was the CWNA. So the next one, let's talk about quickly then. So the next one for me that I passed from after CWNA was the CWDP, which is the design professional. And I'll be completely honest here, I didn't actually study for this. I was working in Wi-Fi, and I was just designing Wi-Fi networks quite a lot. So using Ekahau, doing my predictive model, my on-site AP on a stick, validation surveys, etc., etc. So I felt like I was pretty confident with my design skills for Wi-Fi. So I actually got like a notification from CWNP, or it was in my diary, to say that my CWNA would be expiring soon. I needed to renew my certification. So I thought, well, I will book to go sit the CWP exam, and then hopefully I pass that, and then it will renew my CWNA. So I booked it, sat the exam, and I just passed. I don't know if 75% was the passing mark. I got 75 or like 76%. So no studying. I just went and took it, and I just scraped through. But some people will say that I efficiently studied the right amount, but for me, that was cutting it a little bit too close.
I think I've done the same with the CWDP. I don't think I've spent like more than a day studying for that. So having said that, CWDP, in my opinion, is a little bit too easy to pass.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just turn up with no real studying and still manage to get through, then probably it maybe needs to be looked at. But in my defense, I was working in designing Wi-Fi networks for a good few years by this point.
Same. Have we done the CWDP like together? Were we working together when we were doing the professional level?
I think I had CWDP just before I joined Natilic, potentially. So I think when I met you, I think what I needed to get was the CWSP and CWAP.
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
So which one did you take first?
SP. So CWSP, which is the security professional exam. So what I actually used for the security professional to pass that one was I actually used the CWNP online videos. So I actually watched the CWNP official videos that they have online available. So you can go and purchase the videos for X amount, and then you can watch them in your own time. So I would quite enjoy just watching the SP online videos, and then the practice questions from CWNP as well. So you think if you can buy like a bundle where you get the videos and you get the questions, grinding through the practice questions. I think I watched the videos maybe like once or twice, went through the practice questions a few times, made sure I was passing quite comfortably, and then took the exam. And
I think you've done more than that. Like CWSP we're doing together pretty much. So I already had a very advanced lab for the security Wi-Fi studies, and we were both using that quite a lot to wrap our heads around the Wi-Fi security and making sure that we can lab it up and understand the topics properly. So we have spent quite a lot of time in the lab together. I also remember you were asking me to reproduce some stuff in the lab for you in order to understand some deeper topics better. So it wasn't just the questions were.
Okay, well, you've got a better memory than me then, because I can't remember. I know I invested in a HP Z620 server so I could spin up some virtual machines to build out my lab. But I can't remember if that was for my Cisco exams or if
no. That was I think that started for the CWSP where you bought the server. So we both had PKI running at some point with like Cisco ICE and Windows Server and this kind of stuff.
Remember, I actually had a physical Cisco wireless LAN controller. I think I had like a 2504 at this point, a Cisco with WRC. So this is a very good, like very important, well done for reminding me, Matt, because this is one of the points that we're going to come to during the podcast, is that it's super important to have your own lab, like so important. Like I can't even say how important it is having your own lab for you to actually build it, play with it, break it. When it doesn't work, you've got to troubleshoot it, fix it. That's how you're going to really learn. That's how you're really going to learn and enforce that studying. So sometimes just watching videos and taking the practice tests and stuff, that might actually be able to get you past an exam in some situation, but actually retaining that information and putting it to good use, you really need to lab. So I bought myself a server. I think I got one of like the old decommissioned controllers from the office that was no longer being used. I was like, I'll take that home, and connected an access point or a couple of access points, and configured multiple SSIDs with different types of authentication. Like you said, we had a PKI server running, Radius server as well, so we could do like the full.
I don't want to spoil your fun, but Radius server is like a pretty much part of the PKI.
Oh, fine, yeah, and make sure you got Active Directory running as the Windows Active Directory as well, so you can actually test credentials on different types of EAP methods. And
I would say like a proper lab, and spending countless hours in a lab, not being able to sleep, being stressed and sweaty from thinking, trying to troubleshoot, fix things is way more important than any certification tracks. But having both is ideal.
Yeah.
Because having like honing your skills and then proving by getting the certification to people that don't know you that you can do this stuff is important.
It gives you that confidence as well. If you've got a lab at home and you've got a deployment coming up for a customer, maybe you need to deploy the new Cisco 9800 controllers, which you can do them in VM now rather than having a physical box only. And it's the first time you're going to do it, rather than just looking at the online kind of like deployment guide and then using your customer as your test bed for your first deployment. Like, deploy it in your lab first, get it working. And then when you come across anything that you're not quite so comfortable with, or some gotchas or something that you probably wasn't expecting, it's better for that to happen in your lab than it is to happen on your customer environment. When they're looking over your shoulder, watching you do this configuration, and you're Googling, how do I configure a Cisco 9800 controller? And then, it takes you to the Wi-Fi Ninjas blog, and then now you're following our blog to deploy a 9800 controller. It's much better to do it in your lab first. Gives you that confidence, the practice, and you're going to retain knowledge better for sure.
Having said that, it's like I've done more than one 9800 deployments, and I'm still coming back to my lab very frequently to test out different features.
Every time I do a 9800 controller deployment, I'm coming back to our blogs and stuff that that's
funny, right? You like ask Google something and then your blogs, they come up first.
Okay, so that was SP. So SP, we used online video material from CWMP, practice tests, and the labs. The labs are really, really important. So moving on to the next professional one that we had to do, which was the CWAP, which was the analysis professional. And I've got no shame in saying this. This was one that was scaring me the most. Mm-hmm. The protocol analysis, I was mainly focusing on designing Wi-Fi networks, like the actual, packet captures and real deep protocol analysis. I didn't have to do that much. So this was the one that I was really worried about and was stressing me out a little bit. So what did we do, Mac, to pass the...
I think we were both anxious about that one. Every time something was happening with the network, we were just, quadruple checking the config. We were doing the survey, making sure that the physical side of things is right. But we couldn't really dive too deep into packet captures. And to be absolutely honest, this was my favorite study and exam, highest quality of all the courses that I've done. I think it's my top 4 courses, the CWAP, with Mr. Peter Mackenzie. He has written the curriculum for this course and the exam. And you can feel the quality screaming from every single question. No tricky questions that you either know the answer or you don't know the answer. And we have both sat the 4 days class with Peter up north in, where was it? In Beverly?
Beverly, so it's just next to Hull. But from a time frame perspective, this one took me the longest. I remember I think it was from January to June, I watched the CWMP online videos for CWAP maybe 3 times. I went through, I was watching it pretty much every day because it was almost like a new topic to me, and it was the one that I didn't have the most familiarity with, and I knew it was going to be my biggest challenge. So I watched the videos multiple times. We were fortunate enough that Natilic paid for us to attend the in-person classroom from Peter, like he said, in the lovely place of Beverly in their offices. And I don't think I would have passed the AP exam if I hadn't sat his class.
I know that I wouldn't. It's it's without question. Every time, I know that we had the same feelings, like when you have a question in front of you in the exam center, you can see Peter talking about that specific topic in front of your eyes.
Yeah, it made me laugh. When reading the questions, reading the answers, it was almost like Peter was talking to me. I could hear his voice. So I'm reading the question, but in my head it's Peter asking the question to me. And then from the class, then I could just so vividly picture him talking about that topic. And I was very confident in choosing my answer. So even though I was the most stressed and worried about this exam, when I took it, I was probably feeling the happiest that I felt because out of all of the exams, because I was so confident in my answers, because I could hear Peter in my head, or I could see him going, ack.
I wanted to mention just that, all the frames, Unicast frames that are not acknowledgements are acknowledged. Small little things like this, they stay in your head after sitting a class with a legend like Peter. So he doesn't pay us for talking about his class that highly, but this is the best thing that you can do to forward your career in Wi-Fi, to understand the protocol. Even if you don't don't retain 100% of that knowledge in the classes, now I must say that I quite suck with protocol analysis. I'm way better than I used to be, but it's just not my main strength still. Okay, we do it if we have to. We know what to expect most of the times, but we are nowhere near the level of what likes like Peter or Eddie can do with protocol analysis. But still, it's like an eye opener. I had, oh, that's how it worked moments more than like 50 times during this class. Like every few minutes, it was okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting. How about you? Did you have, well, we're sitting together, so I know we're just like observing, watching, and digesting the information all the time in a 100% focused state while sitting there.
Yep. So yeah, that was definitely my biggest challenge out of the CWNP professional level certifications was the AP. But man, I felt so good. I remember walking out of the testing center and like messaging you, and I felt so good after passing that exam.
Yeah, I think you passed it first, right? We're doing it like in the same day or what? Few days?
Yeah, it was either the same sort of day or within the next couple of days, maybe. I can't quite remember, but I think this is probably like a good point to mention, really, that the importance of having like a study buddy or someone else that's in a similar position in their career to you that can really like motivate you or motivate each other to keep pushing, to keep taking the certifications, keep learning. Because if I hadn't met you, Mac, I don't think I know I wouldn't be a CWNE. When I passed my CWNA back in 2015, CWNE was so far beyond my imagination. I thought there's no chance I would ever become a CWNE. But
same.
After meeting you and meeting someone else as like crazy and passionate about what they do, about Wi-Fi, and that cares so much, I think that's what we both really needed, was to like push and motivate each other. If I was going to take an exam, you were in your head like, oh, if he's going to pass one, I have to pass it as well. And we're kind of holding each other accountable. So we're like studying, helping each other at similar parts of our career together. And that for sure helped massively.
And we are so much different. Like you want to take these exams to stay ahead of me, so you pretty much always take the exam first, and I don't want to allow you to be better than me, so I'm catching up extremely quickly, and we are pretty much taking the exams, like most of them on the same day, and it's like a fight, like a battle all the time, like who has higher percentage. Sometimes it's Matt, sometimes it's me, but it's fun.
Yeah, that's the thing, is we kept it fun. And also like if we needed some help with something, we could ask each other. Maybe there was a part of CWAP that Mac understood better than what I did, or vice versa. And then you can talk to someone else and bounce your ideas off of them, or like where you're stuck. So that was a massive thing for me. So a big tip here is, if you can, try and find someone else in the community, the Wi-Fi community. If it's someone at your work, or if it's someone, maybe it doesn't even have to be at your work. If you're in the UK, maybe you're in the UK Wi-Fi Slack channel. Maybe if you're not in the UK and you're in the Wi-Fi Pros Slack channel, which is kind of global, see if you can find someone who's at a similar point in their career, similar point in their certification career as what you are, and maybe try and like team up, become a study buddy with each other, and you can hold each other accountable to see how well they're getting on with their studying, where they're at with taking the exams, and it will motivate and push both of you to achieve your goals of taking the exams. Because it's hard to stay motivated. Let's be honest. Most of the time, anything is better than studying. So if you need to go and do the Hoover, if you need to go do the dishwasher, most of the time, any distraction or anything other than studying will be more glamorous or better for you to want to do, unless you've got that self-motivation to keep you pushing forward. And having someone else to keep you accountable and push you on helps massively.
So that's called the procrastination, right?
Yeah.
And I don't mind studying that much. I think I mind like doing timesheets more.
Yeah. For some people though, they don't, studying to them, they'd much rather go and make dinner, clean up, watch TV, go out with a friend, walk the dog. Yeah. I think you've got to be strict with your studying. So maybe we can spend a few moments here about what we were doing to stick to our study plan, or some of the things that we were doing to help us stay on track.
Okay, so I will start. In my head, I always had a goal of not having to work my entire life. And in order for that to happen, I need to have a lot of money. And in order to earn more money, you either need to have like a good business idea and establish a successful business, or you need to work hard, or both. So I felt always that the education is a way to go. And it was always motivating me. I had the money motivator, and I was always curious about the technology as well. So even when I was younger, I was always like playing around with the computers and consoles and gadgets and everything, and I was fascinated by how it all works, and I wanted to dig deeper. So pretty much when I was like very young, I already knew that I'm going to be working with computers. I'm not sure if it was a good decision or bad decision. Now, when I'm like standing in front of my computer for 15 hours a day, sometimes I like feel I would prefer to be a farmer or something, but definitely it pays the bills. It's a good career choice. Being a decent engineer, it honestly pays the bills. So having achieved as much in the Wi-Fi industry will probably allow me to go to get the earlier retirement, where I don't have to spend most of my life working. I can, but I don't have to. And that's the great comfort that I take in that. So this motivates me a lot. Outside of what we have discussed with Matt, like we motivate each other, I have that goal in my head that keeps me running. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, also because I can remember when we were taking I think the SP and the AP exams was right around the time that you were moving house as well. So you were moving house from London up to near Northampton, and you were still trying to fit in study time and taking the exams, taking the classes.
I think you forgot that my wife was like 6 months pregnant as well when we were moving houses. And then I don't think I've achieved more in my life at the time when I was moving house with a pregnant wife and having a young kid, plus 2 cats.
Yeah. So, just a few things you had to juggle there. So, okay, so let's go back to pre-COVID times. We would be in the office more regularly, and we'd be going on sites a little bit more regularly than what we are now. So we'd be spending that time commuting. So what I would do, for me personally, studying for me, I like to do in the morning rather than in the evening. So my brain is more susceptible to taking the information. I can focus for longer, and I know that I'm going to be retaining the information better. When I try to study in the evening, I'm more tired and looking at the screen. I'm kind of had enough, and I'm not really that engaged or interested in studying. So for me, studying in the morning was the best option.
Like the first thing, right? So you just wake up, get your coffee, and then you have like this 1 or 2 hours block before you start your work to study.
Yeah, exactly. So that's exactly what I was doing. So let's say 2 scenarios. Well, actually, I'll cover 3 scenarios. So the first scenario that I'm on site, I'm in the office, and I'm going to be traveling to London. So it's going to be about an hour of commuting to get to the site, get to the office. In that case, usually I would have to be up at, 6:30 or before to get up, get ready, get on a train for 7:30, be in London for 8:30, be on site for 9 a.m. But I still like to study in the morning. So on those days, what I would do, because I would say to myself, I'm going to be studying for at least 4 days during the week. And then on the weekend, if I could block out some time, I would do some study on the weekend. So what I would do, I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, even earlier than what I normally would, wake up at 5 a.m., make myself a coffee, and then get straight into my studying, do an hour, 2 hours before, get myself ready, and then commuting to go on site or go to the office. And then also that time that you spend commuting, I would obviously take my headphones, be getting on the train and stuff, rather than listening to music like what I would be normally. I would spend that time listening to a technical podcast. So from the Clear to Send guys, for example, I used them so many times during my studying phases. Because
did you listen to all of their episodes, like 250 plus now?
I can't say if I've listened to every single one, but I know I've listened to the majority of them. So I know I've listened to a whole bunch for sure. So I've listened to a lot of their podcasts, and I've listened to them multiple times as well. So traveling into the office or traveling on site, if you're commuting, if you're going by train or going by car, rather than listening to music, put on a technical podcast and listen to the podcast, and you're going to be picking up some good information there.
Yeah.
And if it's a topic that you're particularly struggling with, listen to the podcast multiple times, and then the more times you listen to it, might start to make a bit more sense, and you can retain that information. So that was kind of like scenario number 1 when we're going on site. and got to travel to site, I would wake up at 5 a.m. Let's say, scenario 2, that I'm at home now, and I don't need to travel on site. I would still get up at that time or as close to that time. And then the time that I would have spent commuting, I now put that time into studying. So the time I get back from commuting, I put that time into extra study time. Because, it's hard, there's no beating around the bush here. It's hard to juggle life, work, social, partner, dog, kids, gym, and studying. Is really hard. So one of the ways that I got around that was that I would get up earlier than everyone else in my household, do my studying in the morning, still work my normal 9 to 5 or whatever hours we're doing, and then I can then do my going to the gym, spending time with my wife, walking the dog, whatever it is you're doing. You don't lose out on that time, because if you end up giving up all of your free time that you would be spending with your family or your friends, you end up just getting pissed off at studying, and it's going to put you off.
So then you'll just become a Mac, like a grumpy fat guy.
Yeah, exactly.
With no work-life balance, just working and studying all the time. Yeah,
and for me as well, I used to really struggle with getting up early because I would be staying up later and watching TV. So getting up early was a struggle at first, but once you start to do it and get in that routine and you get up early, you almost feel like you're getting ahead of the day. So you kind of, I don't know, I quite enjoyed it. Like getting up before everyone else is quiet. You can go and focus, relax, get your studying done, feel good about yourself, still do all of your work, and then you can still do the things that you enjoy doing. If it's going out for a nice walk, riding your bike, going to the gym, playing your instrument, playing your video games, going out for dinner with your friends, your family, your wife, or your partner, you can still do it. And the way I was able to fit it in was by getting up earlier.
Yeah, so I typically do the same thing. I do exactly 100% same stuff with a slight difference. Sometimes commuting times when I was like working 5 days a week from the office, I was still waking up at 5, going to the office first thing. I was first in the office like 2 hours before everyone else, and then I was studying there. Also the priority list. First thing I do in the morning, I update my priority list, and that will include the topics I want to study. So I'm always focused. I always know what needs to be done, what needs to be studied first. And a great tip there is not to overwhelm yourselves with too many tasks. Only put on the high priority list tasks that you know you can complete on that day. And if you do complete tasks that cannot wait, you have to do them, then you move to a medium priority tasks and you complete as many as you can, but not too many. You don't want to overwhelm yourself with the to-do list. But to-do list, it makes me focused all the time. If something is on my high priority list for today, I will do it. If it's not, I will not. That's as simple as that. So I'm juggling priorities all the time.
Good tip. Okay. Next requirement now, if you want to apply for your CWNE, is having the CWISA, which is the IoT Administrator. I think is the technical terminology for that exam. I passed that exam, Mac. I know it's on your to-do list for the recertification for CWNE. What I used to pass that exam is I got the online videos from CWNP. I watched those a couple of times. I got a practice test, went through them a couple of times, and I was able to take the exam and pass first time. Another thing I want to mention here, don't be dissatisfied if you don't pass your exam first time. I've got no shame in saying I think I failed pretty much all of my exams first time. Most of the exams I've taken 2 or 3 times. Failing an exam is not something to be ashamed or embarrassed about. You fail, you then see the areas that you need to work on, and then you go and focus on those areas, and then you go and retake the exam. Don't let it put you off. That first initial feeling, it like sinks to your stomach, and you're, this comes up on the screen.
You feel disappointed with yourself. It's amazing tip, man, because there is such a thing as overstudy. So you are approaching it in a more practical way, where you think you might have a chance at passing. You go and try. You passed, fine. You didn't pass, fine. You go back and just work on the areas which require more work. I was doing it the other way around, and it was wrong. Like looking from the time perspective, I was spending 3 times more time studying than Matt. We've achieved the same stuff. I am older than Matt, and our knowledge is pretty much identical. So I have overstudied multiple times for most of my exams where I was getting close to 100%. Do you need to be close to 100%? No. You need to pass and understand the topic. You don't need to be close to 100% in your exams. So don't overstudy, it's a waste of time.
Yeah, and the other thing here is obviously it can be expensive, right? So if you're paying for the online material, you're paying for the in-person classes, you're paying for the exams, it can all build up. Sometimes you'll be lucky and the company that you work for will pay for you to go on these trainings. They'll pay for your exams or they'll pay for your first one. But sometimes maybe you work for yourself or a smaller company and they can't afford to put you on the in-person training. So we've been quite lucky that the company that we've worked for, they have paid for us to attend the classes, but there's also been stuff that we've paid for ourselves as well. So it's really important to invest in yourself sometimes. If you want to further in your career, the best person you can invest in is in yourself. If your company won't pay for you to attend that training course or pay for that online material for you to use, then see if you can save up some money to invest in yourself and find a way to be able to buy it so you can get that training, get that certification, and then progress yourself in your career.
And conferences, don't forget about conferences. Extremely important as well to keep yourself motivated, switched on, and meet other people as passionate as you. For, I think, both of us, it's like when we were attending some Ekahau design day stuff or whatever, where whenever Peter was getting on the stage, we mentioned his name quite a lot here, it's like I was feeling stunned by the quality of his presentations and the amount of new information in there, new for me. And I just wanted to be technically as good as him. And it was enough for me at that time to motivate me, to push me further, to stay focused on achieving my long-term goals. But I need to have these impulses, like good conference talks, presentations from people that are better than me.
Yeah, that is a massive thing for me as well, as attending the conferences. It motivates you so much. Like seeing other people get up there presenting, listening to them, talking to peers, like networking during the day after the event is so motivating for me. Just talking to like-minded people in the industry, seeing the challenges they've come, seeing the challenges you've come, helping them, and they help you. I found that massively motivating. So
absolutely,
one massive tip: get yourself to the conferences, WRPC, CWMP, Ekahau Wi-Fi Design Days, Open Realities Day in the UK. It's so worth it. If your company won't pay for it, and if you can afford it or find a way to afford it, it is so worth it to go there. I can't wait to get back to a conference. It's probably the thing that I am missing the most is the in-person conferences.
Even if it's one conference a year or something like that, if you can't afford more, that's fine. Attend just one conference a year. It's still a massive helper. Also, another certifications outside of CWNP track, they can help you out with understanding Wi-Fi better and giving you more motivation and technical depth of understanding of the Wi-Fi topics. There are a few classes that has helped me tremendously with understanding stuff, technical stuff. Like, I think the best class outside of CWNP that is helping me with, getting to CWNE by understanding topics better was Devin Aiken's wireless adjuster. That was a fantastic class. I'm still crying from happiness every time I think about that, to the point where we are about to sit another class. Actually, we're scheduled to sit another class tomorrow and day after tomorrow, but I'm on site, so can't do that. But that was amazing. And ECSE design class from Ekahau, amazing class, great material. It's written originally by Keith Parsons, and in one day you have a short version of CWNA in there. So if you want to get more practical class and still spend 4 days, pay for it, you want to learn a tool that is earning you money or your company money, so your company will probably want to invest in the vendor specified, in a vendor certification, Ekahau vendor certification that you are using every day. This will make you a better engineer using the specific Ekahau tool. But at the same time, when you are pursuing CWNE and you are at a CWNA stage where you are about to take an exam, this will help you tremendously because it's pretty much a short version of CWNA. So amazing class. And I think these two classes, they are extremely great even when pursuing CWNP. There are more vendor classes that I loved. I won't talk about them here, but these two classes, wireless adjuster and ECSE design, have a special place in my technical heart. How about you?
Yeah, no, they're great classes for sure. I sat both of them as well, and obviously sat the ECSE design class a few times now, as well as we teach it, but not trying to sound biased here, but it's a great class. Honestly, it's so good. The material and the hands-on as well as the theory, it just clicks together. So you cover as much theory as possible on the first day, and then the rest of the class, when you're actually getting hands-on and doing something inside of the tool, you get those aha moments. You're like, oh, okay. So the reason why we do this in here is because of that, which we learned on day one. So yeah, great classes. So what's the next requirement? That's requirement number 1, by the way, from CWNE's perspective. So the next requirement from CWNP is that you have to have another certification. So another certification, for like example, what we use was our Cisco certifications. So we had to have a technical certification from somewhere else. So we used our CCNA, CCNP stuff from Cisco, but you can use probably Aruba, Ruckus, who else? Maybe even Mist ones now.
Oh, definitely Mist will be good. Probably like not something like Microsoft or whatever, but yeah, anything network related should be good enough.
Yep. Let me just read it then. So it says candidate must possess 1 current and valid professional proctored exam, networking security design or network analysis certification from a non-CWNP certification provider in any of the following topics. So networking technologies, routing, switching, security, protocol analysis, RF, and network design. So if you've got a vendor-specific certification, that meets the requirement for number 2 for CWNP.
Yes, and that should be enough. And then the third requirement is you need to have a provable at least 3 years of professional experience in Wi-Fi field. It can be anything that relates to Wi-Fi, from administration going through security, protocol analysis, whatever. But you need to be able to prove that. But worry not, by the time you pass all your CWNP certificates, you probably will be in a field for at least 3 years anyway, right?
Easily.
So, yeah. So it's not too problematic, I don't think. And yeah, this experience, it just comes in naturally. So we just start working, you fall in love with Wi-Fi, then you start pursuing your Wi-Fi certifications, and you just have 3+ years, no problem at all. So that's point number 3. What's next?
You need to have 3 endorsements. So you've got to reach out to friends or colleagues that know your Wi-Fi enterprise work history, and they can be there as an endorsement if CWNP decides to reach out to validify your credentials from your experience.
Yeah, and don't be put off by the enterprise. If you work in industrial environment and warehouses, it's still fine. Yeah. It's still considered the enterprise class Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so I think I put your name down. I think I put our boss at the time, LD and Anderson,
same,
put his name down, and then a colleague that I worked with at a previous company. So Marco, I used to work with, and he was also a Wi-Fi guy at the company before. So again, they know your work history and can verify that, and endorse you.
Yeah, exactly. I don't remember who I put as a third person. It was either Chris or Peter. I don't know.
Maybe Ashley Georgeson, actually, I think rings a bell. Maybe I used him.
It was Ash. Yeah, you're right.
Ash, I might have used.
Yeah.
Ash, one of our first podcast guests that we had on talking about stadium Wi-Fi, which I think leads us on nicely to the next point. So that's the first 4 requirements that you need for your CWNE application. And the 5th one is the publication requirement. So you are required to have 1 or more of the following. So 1 published white paper, which is 10+ pages, 1 published Wi-Fi book, 1 recorded video, which has got instructional presentation qualities to it, a published Wi-Fi article, which is in excess of 1,000 words, a regularly updated blog, at least 6 802.11 related posts. And then finally, what does this one say? Other writing projects must... Okay, so if you've got a different type of writing project that you want to submit, it must be pre-approved by the CWNP board. But if this wasn't a requirement, then this wouldn't be happening today, would it, Mac?
Yeah, that is true, 100%. But guys, if you want to learn about something, write or record about that. If you start writing a blog about the topic, then you will very quickly realize when you are coming up with a structure of your blog that you are lacking here, and there, and then you will be constantly like reading up on things that don't click well together in your head, which you didn't know that you didn't know. So if you write, you learn. If you teach or record videos, you learn. Try to do as much of that as possible.
Yeah, and being completely honest here, the whole reason why we started the Wi-Fi Ninja podcast was pure, and the blogs that we do was purely to meet the publication requirement for our CWNE application. When we were standing around the that table in the Natilic office, and we were like, "Oh, should we start a podcast?" You know,
was it the first time we were together at Natilic office just after you started working? I think it was like the first day we were on site together, not on site, like in the office together. So we had the interviews, then blah, blah, blah. You went for holidays, then you came back. And I think that was like the first day when we were like sipping our morning coffees in the office. And then we just like decided to start doing a Wi-Fi Ninjas podcast. Podcast was something that I wanted to start even before we met. And I think we both had the same podcasting idea. We were like looking at you guys, at Clear to Send guys, like being so successful in the space. We just wanted to do more of the same in the UK market, because you're covering, like Clear to Send guys, they are covering quite a lot of American markets and not necessarily the UK. So we wanted to be a counterpart to that in the UK. So it was just like, oh, Matt, podcast? Yeah, why not? How should we call it? Wi-Fi Ninjas, all right? Yeah, all right, done. And then, just like 1 week later, we already had our accounts in media hosting providers like Libsyn sorted. We've already started building a website. We didn't have too much money to invest back then to pay for the web designing professionals, so we've done all of it on our own. We didn't have a clue about the microphones or interfaces or cameras or lenses. We didn't know any of that. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. For as long as your content is good, it doesn't matter. Put the content out there. Like if you don't have anything else, just use your iPhone or your Android phone to record your voice. It's fine. It's good enough. If you write, you don't have to be like a professional writer. The more you write, the better it's going to be. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. It has to be technically good enough for other people to find it interesting. That's it.
Yep. So yeah, that was the whole birth and reason of the Wi-Fi Ninja podcast, and then the feedback that we've got from the community and everyone has just been so nice. It's why we've continued it, and it really helps us to keep learning, keep challenging ourselves, and making sure that we understand new technologies and we're comfortable enough to talk about it, so we can then obviously record a podcast or a video or a blog or wherever it is.
It's also cheating a little bit, because if we cannot find answers to some questions that are really bothering us, we just look for the best person in the world that is capable of answering these questions for us, and we invite them to the podcast, and then we just ask them these questions live. So we are learning by doing it a lot.
And then I listen back. Then when I'm driving somewhere, I'm on the train, and I need to relearn that topic. I just listen back to one of our podcasts, and I just listen to one of the many amazing guests that we've had on our show.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the fifth requirement, the publication requirement. If you check all of these boxes, you are now ready for requirement number 6, which is writing your 3 technical essays. So you have to submit 3 technical essays, and you need to explain a problem that you have solved on a project, and it's got to be between 500 and 1,000 words.
Which is short.
And you've got fairly short. So you'll think, oh, okay, 1,000 words, that sounds like quite a lot. Then you start writing, and then all of a sudden you're on like 2,000 something. You're like, oh man, I need to scale it back, or at least that was what it was like for me when I was writing my essay. I wrote them, and then I looked at the word count, and I went, oh no, too much.
It's more difficult to write something substantial in a short article form than just keep on writing. It's difficult.
Yeah, for sure. So you write your 3 technical essays, and it's got to be on your participation in or leadership of enterprise Wi-Fi implementation or projects that you've worked on, proper use of 802.11
implementation or what?
Implementation of reparitation projects. So I don't use that word too much.
Repariation, I think.
Yeah, so
I've never heard of that. Don't know what this means.
So basically, your involvement in Wi-Fi projects, implementation, or the project phase, design, install, whatever.
Okay, another one. The essay can be like a proper use of 802.11/wireless LAN vernacular. What the hell is vernacular?
Again, not a word that I use too often, but I suppose just making sure that you're talking around the terminology properly would be my guess, right? And making sure, or you talk about an in-depth understanding of the complex WLAN topics, and then finally your accomplishments in design, install, and configuration of a 802.11 network. So 3 essays based on those topics, which is not the easiest thing to do. And there are a lot of people, they get to this point and then they procrastinate, they open up their Word document and then they think, oh, what am I going to write about? But you know,
if you have your blog up and running already, then it can be quite a lot of copying and pasting. It's like 2 out of my 3 essays, I just copied and pasted my already published blogs pretty much.
And just reworded them slightly to be in more of a essay format.
Yes.
That's very good if you're like us, and we've written many blogs and podcasts by this time. But if you've not quite done that, maybe you've just done the one published Wi-Fi white paper. You know, we like to take notes. So quite a lot of our notes that we take, you could probably convert our OneNotes into, you probably convert it into a whole Wi-Fi book now, but you could convert one of the topics from your notes into the essay, the technical essay. Then once you've written your essays, you're ready to submit that to the board.
Pretty much, but guys, like before you start writing essays, if you don't have too much of the academic background, because you don't have to, right? Just Google quickly how to structure an essay, because it's important. Essays, they have a structure. They are asking for an essay here, and it has to be an academic paper pretty much, right? So don't use too difficult language if you are not sure. You can keep it simple, but it has to have an essay structure. And it's easier when you know what you want to achieve and how. You can just take a look at the example essays out there and it will clarify what you want to achieve.
Trying to remember the topics of my essays that I did now. I think I did like talking about implementation of one of my Wi-Fi projects. I think I did maybe talking about how I was troubleshooting one of my Wi-Fi projects. And I think I spoke about, or one of my essays was on the authentication process for a particular type of I'm just trying to think of the top of my head now what it was. It was a few years ago. Do you remember yours?
Yeah, I do. So the design was about the trilateration design with Wi-Fi and how it doesn't work. Then the analysis, actually, I don't think I've done it like that, like a design analysis. The second one related to security was what conditions must be met to decrypt, to crack .1x transmissions. So this took me good few weeks, every single day, several hours a day, reading up about how .1x works, trying to obtain the radius keys. How do you do that? How do you capture the four-way handshake? All of this, like, it required like a super extremely proper read up that allowed us to produce our famous Wi-Fi Ninja's .1x ladder diagram. That shows like all the key generations and stuff. But see, I wanted to write the essay, and this has prompted me to do like a really proper research that lasted weeks and has made me a better Wi-Fi security engineer. So that was the second one. And the third one, what was the third one? Oh, and the third one was the effect of the radios being too close to one another, channel leakage and near field interference. So yeah, amount of percentage of retransmissions in certain conditions. I think it was like quite eye-opening for me as well, studying towards that. It was like a combination of my materials from the university, tons of Googling and tons of tests. After CWAP class with Peter, we had a trial version of OmniPeak. So I've used that to calculate easily the number of retransmissions and stuff like that and visualize it nicely. I finished writing the essay and then my OmniPeak has expired and I never had access to it again.
I do. Well, I know we've mentioned him a few times now as well, but Peter kindly offered, when we sat the AP in-person class, we obviously mentioned that we were going for our CWNEs, and Peter offered, he said, if we sent him, or if I sent him one of my exams, my essays that I was writing, he would review it and then just give me some tips on, some things that I should focus on more, some things I should focus on less. So that really actually helped me. So I sent him one of my technical essays that I was going to prepare for the submission to CWMP. Peter reviewed it, gave me some tips on like maybe how I should write in certain areas and how maybe I should maybe not focus on some other parts and be a bit more specific about the technical parts of the document, which really helped me. So if you've got like a mentor or someone that you can have review your technical essay before you submit, that would be really helpful for you as well. So that was a really nice thing that Peter did for me.
Yeah, or you can just randomly send your essays to Peter asking for a review. He would appreciate it.
Oh, Peter, we heard on the Wi-Fi Ninja podcast you review CWNE essay applications
for free.
The Ninja send them over. We'll put his email in the show notes, so you can just reach out to him. I'm sure he'll love that.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it. So that was number 6. What's number 7?
Just before we move on to number 7, I think now would probably be a good point to mention the board members, because CWNP just announced yesterday that there are some new board members for the people that will be reviewing your technical essays. So your essays go to a board, they review your essays and they vote to say whether they think that you passed the requirements to your essays. And just yesterday they announced 3 new members, and that's Jim Bada, saying that right? Very nice guy, very, very technically good. Had him on the podcast a couple times now, I think. About 7 Signal, maybe some other bits and pieces. Raymond Hendricks, very good Wi-Fi professional, sat his class for the MIST.
And a very experienced Wi-Fi teacher, right, as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so I in my head, I think, how have they got time to be a CWNP board member reviewing all of this stuff when they're doing their day job, they're teaching, plus becoming a CWNP board member. And then lastly is Landon Foster. So he's also a board member as well. So very good additions, I would say, to the CWNP board. And I think the couple of people they lost was Robert Bartz and Heather Williams. So they're kind of stepping down after over 3 years of service on the CWNE board. So congrats to them, and thank you to Heather and Rob for their time. They probably reviewed our applications.
Yeah, probably. Thank you very much, guys, because we really appreciate this is like a free commitment, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you are getting paid for that, and you have quite a lot of essays and things to review coming your way that you have to do in your free time.
Yeah, so that was the 6 requirements. Then the 7th one is to agree with the CWNE Code of Ethics. So there's a link to a document. You need to read that. Tells you what you need to kind of abide by so you can pass the requirements. And then you've also got to keep to that Code of Ethics.
Is there a mention about swearing?
I'm not sure. And if there was, then there's no way you'd be a CWNE. Let's be real.
My CWNE is about to be revoked. Okay. And
yeah, that's the requirements from CWNE. So was you going to say something there, Mac?
No, I just wanted to say easy peasy, lemon squeezy. How difficult can it be to get there, right?
Yeah, I was going to say that's it. That's just 7 requirements, really. If you want to become a CWNE.
It's quite prestigious. We have like just over 400 people being CWNEs globally. So it's not too many, okay? When you compare it to expert certificates, different expert certificates, it's like a small group of people achieving that. I can't blame them because it's a hard work.
Yeah, sure. The last one then is the recertification. So if you want to stay a CWNE, you have to, your CWNE will last for 3 years. If you want to renew it, there is the continuing education program where you have to submit credits to show that you're still continually learning. You submit that to CWNP and they will either accept it or reject it. And then you basically have to get a certain amount of time or credits towards renewing your CWNE.
Okay, and I think just one thing that we have not mentioned and we wanted to mention is engage in social networks, especially on Twitter. You have pretty much every Wi-Fi professional sitting on Twitter. Just follow the people that you like listening to in the Wi-Fi space. And that's it. Just spend 5 minutes in the morning seeing what they have to say. There will be tons of practical tips about how to survey, what equipment they use to survey, new surveying modes, new standards, new amendments came out, tested, new blogs, new podcasts, everything. Okay, and you might find some of it or all of it very useful.
Yeah, I think that's it then. Really, I think just try and stay motivated, guys and girls. If you're studying, keep that momentum going. If you study, you pass your exam, don't think to myself, oh, I'm just going to take a little break now. I deserve a little holiday after all this studying. Keep that ball rolling, because once it's rolling, it's easy to keep that momentum. But when you stop it and then you've got to try and start pushing that boulder up the hill again, it becomes harder. So once you've got that momentum, really keep it going. Like, keep on focus, keep going, don't procrastinate, and yeah, just smash it out, guys.
Yeah, you don't deserve holidays. Just have
Yeah,
that.
like, don't take a break. Take your CWNA study guide on you to your holiday. Read it on the plane. Yeah, don't sip margaritas or pina coladas.
Yeah, sell your PS5.
Yeah, well, but it is important to make sure you still do the things that you enjoy doing, but maybe you just need to be a little bit more stricter. Like, let's say you want to play on your PlayStation. You say, if I'm going to play my PlayStation tonight, I need to have done my 2 hours of studying, or I would need to finish this chapter. I need to go through these practice questions. I need to have done this in my lab.
Yes, but Matt, you have also mentioned like a very important thing about wanting to achieve it. If you feel that studying Wi-Fi is so difficult for you and you find zero motivation to do it, then it might not be your thing. That's another thing, right? Don't force yourself to do something you don't enjoy.
Yeah, and we're quite lucky, I suppose, because we find it extremely interesting and we love what we do. So for us, studying didn't really even feel like a chore sometimes. I was really enjoying learning about the different topics. There's topics that I wasn't too comfortable with or wasn't familiar with, and I liked it. But for some people, you might look at it and think, oh God, this is so boring. I'd rather be looking at firewalls or opening up ports. And
yeah, so that's what was happening to me when I was studying towards my collaboration exams, which I did pass, or data center exams, which I also passed, and security exams, which I also passed from Cisco. I thought I'm going to die while studying towards that certifications, okay? And then I discovered Wi-Fi and I thought, oh my goodness, it's so fascinating. And I didn't struggle with any of these exams anymore.
So there you go. So I think we've probably covered everything that we done to help us achieve becoming CWNEs. If anyone else has got any other tips, any other CWNEs that are listening to this and want to share some of the things that they done to help them us becoming a CWNE, then feel free to reach out, respond to this, and let us know, let the listeners know.
Yeah, and also if you want to feel more responsible for your studies, send us an email saying that, Ninjas, I'm going to pass that exam by the end of next month, and then we'll give you a call by the, like 1 week before the exam, checking if you're on track, if you want.
Yeah, we can start holding people accountable, right? Reach out to us and say, oh, Mac, I'm going to be a CWNE by December 2021. So when we reach out to you,
don't forget to think about the punishment if you don't achieve that. Like, if I don't become a CWNE by December next year, then I buy both Matt and Mac a good whiskey each.
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you again, Mac, for spending your time with just me on this podcast.
Always a pleasure. Thank you very much for your time, Matthew.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, well, we will see you on